I am supposed to be a moderator and speaker, and that's what happens when you're a Gemini. They give you two roles, so I apologize when I shift from one to another. So here we go. Here's what I think I'm going to do, and I'm going to need your help moderating it. So I figured what we'll do is we'll divide this into a why, and then a what and how, and a where. We're going to talk about the why, and it's going to be, why did you do what you did? And I want to get really personal on this. I don't want to get into a lot of the professional stuff we can read about you on the internet. But I really want to get into more your mind, the why. Then we're going to talk about the what and how, and that's going to be about what were the tools that you used to help you become who you are, and how did you use those tools? They look like they're taking a test now. and then we're going to talk about the where. And I'm going to keep that as a mystery a little bit until the end. So let's start with the why. And I'm going to start with Maha, since, just full disclosure, I'm very close to her family. I've known Maha since she was a baby. And it is really, I'm so proud to be on the stage with her. So Maha, why chocolate? Why did you pick chocolate? There's Cadbury, there's See's, there's Godiva, there's all these giants, there's all this chocolate that we love. Yeah. Why did you decide to compete with the Goliaths of chocolate?
Basically, it was an accident that the chocolate business started.
You can talk to them.
Yes, that's true. It was an accident. It wasn't planned at all, but once it's because of the quality of the chocolate that I was encouraged to go into business. That's why. But so this is what differentiates from everything that you just mentioned. Get the candy that you mentioned. Because it's not chocolate.
So it was just like an accident?
Yes, it's my mother's recipe that I introduced to my friend here who doesn't eat dark chocolate. When I insisted, she became addicted, and this is how the idea started. And then friends and my professors, because I had a completely different treasury that. So that they convinced me to go into the business.
Okay, moment in time.
Yes,
Rana, how
exactly.
about you?
I want to make sure my microphone is working. Is it? Yes. What I ended up doing with my career was an instinctive thing. I was living in Beirut. There was no designed education. I went to London, and unconsciously I was exporting my culture. And I realized Lebanon had a very distorted image, which was very negative through the media. So I realized the power of design can change people's perceptions about anything. So graphic design was an amazing tool to change the perception of the Middle East for me. And I started to reposition Lebanon, especially capturing its culture through pop art or pop images that were disregarded. People would be embarrassed or kind of neglecting them, thinking, or they don't want to identify with that. And I was like taking those beautiful images that were nostalgic and glorifying them and placing them into retail, hospitality, exhibitions, and celebrating it, which is what we, and creating an identity for everybody who's Arab to fall in love with. Because the media is very good at convincing us that we're not good enough. And I was out there to just make sure people would fall in love with the Middle East through my work. So that was my mission statement.
Wonderful. Larbi, you worked for a company that I am very familiar with. And when you left it, it was on a pretty steep trajectory of growth, which would have provided you wonderful opportunities within the organization. Yet you decided to leave and go on your own. Why?
It's more the lack of excitement of being in a large organization where there are a lot of processes and procedures and rules to be followed, and not being able to be part of a change just because there are so many hurdles from a managerial standpoint. And I thought I could do it, perhaps my own way, alone with a couple of partners when we started our company.
All right, well, I'm not going to tell Stu what you said about everything that was negative, but that's okay. George, you built an empire. You have done so well. Why clothing? I mean, this is a very competitive market. Why?
Look, I left Lebanon, okay, and then when I came here, I started a modest, very modest job, but I felt the need for me, I need to do more for my family, for everyone that I want to support back in Lebanon, because I came by myself, then my brother. It's just two people from a very, very big family. And then I worked for a company, and I wanted to do more. And then I felt, I have a lot of energy, a lot of ideas that I couldn't execute as an employee. So I decided to go on my own. So the sky is the limit. I know we live in New York, very, very competitive market. But I thought, with the hard work and dedication, we could win. And thank God we were able to really win and establish some big businesses.
So you figured out you can do it better.
Yes, exactly.
All right, well, now this is where I shift hats and go to a speaker.
Exactly.
So why for me? So I came to the States in '86 from Beirut, and I got involved in the building industry. And a few years later, I started realizing that a big part of the problems we have in the United States, whether it is social equity or elsewise, is a derivative of how the country grew and how we were building communities. We're a country that relied on the automobile for everything. We're what I call a hard zone country, meaning we force people to live in one place, work in another place, and shop in a third place. We grew through suburban sprawl, and we basically left the inner cities to rot from the inside. And we provided the affluent people to be able to go and live behind gates, and we, over the years, became a segregated society that is segregated based on, social standard or social levels. We ended up sending our elderly to live in homes because they couldn't afford homes. And I think today, as we start looking at the problems we're dealing with, whether it is environmental in nature or social, I think it had a lot to do, at least that's my opinion, with how we actually decided to grow. And the why behind it was that I decided that I'm going to try to see if we can change that, if we can start actually building things differently, and that takes me to the what and the how, which I will start and then I'll give it to you. So the what for me and what the tools were, I think that, I would say the first tool was to have the courage to try and fail and keep on trying. I think a lot of people give up too quickly. I would say that another tool for me was, I'm one of those people who embraces change. A lot of people are afraid of change. Change has been very good for me, although at the moment, like when we had to leave Lebanon, was not something that I looked at positively, but it turned out to be a good thing. The other thing that I think was a great tool for me was that I had a group of people who were believers. None of us can do it alone unless you have a bunch of believers who jump on the bandwagon with you, and I have a group of people who have been working with me for over 20 years and believed in the same vision. And I had cheerleaders, family and friends, that were there to cheer me on every time I felt I was too tired to keep on going. Now in the toolbox, at the bottom of the toolbox, I found a blueprint which really made it easy for me to start having my vision be clear. And that was a blueprint of how I would like to see the social fabric of the city I built. And that blueprint was a place I was born in and I grew up in until I left, and that's called Ras Beirut. That actually was what I saw as the model. It's a place that really did not differentiate people by wealth, by religion, by any other standard that today we measure people by. I didn't appreciate it as much as I appreciate it today when I was living there, because I thought the rest of the world lived that way. It's a place that is very random, but that's what gives it its charm. And it's a place that has education as a cornerstone. And as such, I use that as my blueprint to go forward. Now the how, I have built now cities, small cities, and we're very proud to say that our public schools that we built, where today the public education in the United States is really deteriorated a lot. Our public schools today rival any private school. We have 72 languages spoken in our schools. We have people who are coming from countries at war and becoming neighbors. We have a little girl who's living in an apartment in an affordable housing, minimum wage, sitting next to a boy who's living in a $3 million home, getting the education, realizing that the glass ceiling is not there anymore. You know, for me, that's the how, but honestly, it all goes back to, you know, how I grew up. And every time I give a speech about what I do, I always say, if I can build Ras Beirut over and over again, the world will be a better place. So, George, I'm going to start with you.
Me, okay.
Yes. The what and the how.
So, you know, again, we came from Lebanon. We came for a short period, but we all as Lebanese know since the 75, every 5, 6 years, 10 years, we have a crisis, and every crisis bigger than the one before. And then every time we have, you know, everything will get lower and lower. We have new law on what's happening with the Lebanese people. So, you know, I decided to really, again, go in business to try to really help myself, my family, and the people that I know in Lebanon. So I decided, I said, okay, I come from Lebanon, a lot of multi-culture, religions, and politics. So I said to myself, okay, I'm not gonna talk about politics. We don't talk about religion. And then I wanna learn a lot about how the right way of doing business and educate people, associates, customers, suppliers, and be full transparent. And then I was able to really deal with the biggest retailers in the world, such Walmart, Target, back then JCPenney, and all those retailers. But you know, learning myself about the product, the full supply chain, come and teach all those retailers how everything works. And then I told them, for me to do all this, I need to make money to support my company and the people working. So, you know, we followed very simple recipe. We do everything legal, you know, ethical. We care about our reputation and people's reputation. We don't want to waste people's time, and we need to make money. We do everything reasonable and appropriate. And then I try to learn from the best. You know, as an entrepreneur, probably you didn't go to school for what you are doing, but there are a lot of, you know, people who are very, very successful. You can learn the best out of them, try to do what they do right, try not to do, okay, the wrong things. And then we still believe in the mission that we started, and thank God we were able to really become what we became.
So, integrity, respecting customer, those are things that you think are foundational.
Yeah, I mean, again, respect everyone, you know, like I said, you know, just being nice, okay, you can be very tough, and then we are in business, you know, in business we need to make money, but you can do it the right way, the legal way, the appropriate way, and be very transparent. Sometimes, you know, full transparency could hurt you, but at the long run, it works.
So you don't agree with Hermes, where you go in and get insulted, and they don't want to sell you anything, and that's how they attract you?
That's no problem at all.
All right, Rana.
I'm always trying to think of the word entrepreneur. It looks or sounds very glamorous, but I think behind the scene, especially, I'm not a businesswoman. I'm a designer. I trained as a graphic designer, and they never taught us about numbers at art school. So I learned those the hard way. You know, I look stylish, and on social media, it's all great fun. But really, running a business is definitely a roller coaster. It's got its customer service, dealing with clients that I think most of them don't really understand design and the value of how design can really enhance a company and its business. So eventually I picked up numbers and I understand Excel sheets, not just Photoshop. And that really helped kind of sustain my company. The best part of it is inspiring people. This is more valuable than what one can have in a bank account. When I can walk down the street and people stop me and say, wow, what you said yesterday on social media has moved me. So that for me is so valuable. And that comes as being part of an entrepreneur. It changes people's minds, how they think, how they perceive things. And design has allowed me to do that.
So how much has social media been a part of your success?
For me, Instagram has been a life changer. To be able to communicate with people from all over the world has been just outstanding. As much as people hate the word influencer, but yes, I guess I've been doing that without Instagram for many years through my work. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have some kind of body of work to be able to celebrate and influence people. You can't just influence people by just, which many people do on social media, just by dancing, whatever. But let's
Why are you looking at me?
I ride my Vespa, which you didn't know. So I use things like that on social media to attract attention. But of course, there has to be some form of substance. There's a lot of, hot air on social media. But yes, it's very powerful.
Larbi, what do you?
So me, I spent my entire career in financial services. I never thought I would become an entrepreneur, but I was married, well, I am still married to my wife, but she was an entrepreneur for about a decade, and her entire family, they all have their own businesses, and that inspired me a lot. And always wanting to change things and improve things. It's a little harder to do in a large organization. And she pushed me to become an entrepreneur, and I stayed in the same business, so financial services, lending, real estate lending, and I actually ended up partnering with one of her old classmates. So I guess a lot of this is through my wife, who has been pushing me a lot. But like Maha was saying, being an entrepreneur, like every week you're dealing with a real challenge, a real problem. It's not, it's very exciting because you're able to, to make changes in your employees, you're able to help your clients, achieve what they want to achieve, but you're faced with challenges every week. And I think that's what keeps it very, very exciting for me.
So, wasn't scared?
Sorry?
Well, you were not scared?
I wasn't scared, no. Because I think, and I'll speak about the U.S., I think the U.S. is a country where, the law works, and if you do the right thing, most likely it will work out. So I wasn't scared, but I've had, moments of, rethinking, our business strategy and, considering maybe closing during, 2020. So we went through all of those thoughts, but just kept persevering and just kind of sticking to the broader vision of the company.
How about you?
I started on Wall Street, and Rana was just mentioning that she, because I had a business degree before that, so I did have that background at least, which is good. But then when I went to graduate school I did political affairs because I had something like very, very particular in mind that I wanted to pursue. The chocolate was on the side when I was starting, and that's why some of my professors said, if you grow enough, you can become influencer in politics. Clearly, I need to grow more to become an influencer in politics, but but also school helped me because that's how it started. We started selling at the gala dinners, the award dinners, and then people would pick it up and then they would start ordering. And Rana is right, social media is very important, and this is something I need to invest in. But my customers have been my marketing people, because this is how it's been. People order, and then they gift, and then it becomes a domino effect. Really, that's how it was organic. I grew organic and word of mouth. But is this enough? No, that's not enough.
The fact that it might look glamorous to be an entrepreneur, everybody has that dream, but when you get into it, it's you're on your own. Jojo, how many employees do you have?
We have around 7,000 employees now worldwide.
So one of the things that I know used to keep me up at night is making payroll. And what do I need to do to make sure that nobody loses a job because I was asleep at the switch? How many nights did you lose?
Hey, look, in the beginning, you come, you don't have working capital, you have to build your working capital. I didn't know really what means raising money until today. We haven't raised a penny. Of course, you have a cash flow, you have issues. It's tough. Financial crisis comes. September 11 happens. Oh my God, we hit in New York. I left Lebanon because no war. Now we have war in New York. What do you do? Shutting down the whole country. It's not easy. It's not. But every crisis, it doesn't kill you, make you stronger. So we learn. We're resilient, and but you have to control your own destiny. Start to think and operate in the future. So that's really what entrepreneur needs to do. And then of course there's the compromise, the sacrifice that every day you need to do. And hopefully you have people around you that are aligned with your mission. And then they really, if something goes wrong, they'll stand beside you to really support you to go through the crisis. Because we have a crisis every day. Every day you have a crisis. So entrepreneur, yes, there's a big reward, but you have to be ready to deal with lawsuits, issues. Every time you could have a lawsuit could put you out of business, unnecessary or unreasonable, but you get used to it. I always say today, bad news, tomorrow, it's less as bad as it was today. So, and then you get used to it.
See, that's spoken as a seasoned entrepreneur. Don't, it'll be fine. Before we go on to the where, I wanted to open it up for questions and comments. You need to help me moderate this thing. I'm not going to wait until the end and do the questions and answers. What are your thoughts so far? What are your questions so far?
In hindsight, knowing what you know today, what is the one thing you would have done differently when you started?
Well, for me, it's easy. I was going to get to it on the where, but I wouldn't have gone public.
You would not have gone public.
No, I would not have gone public. And I'll get to it in a second.
For me, I'm thinking about it. I think I would have not changed anything. I'm happy how I did everything and then who I worked with. Of course, more minor things, but at the scope of everything, I think it's good. I'm still private, by the way, so that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have hair, you don't.
It's not for everyone.
Yes, go ahead.
I would say to delegate more, to have a stronger team, to have a better management. Management is very, very important in business. It can really, if you don't have good management, I can be a great designer with no management. So that's very, very important. And cash flow is more important than your mother.
Yeah.
For me, having a team early on, so we were 2 partners for 3 years, and we were doing everything from accounting, marketing, investor relations, and things like that. And you can't do everything by yourself or with a small team. So starting with a larger team of experienced people would have helped us a lot more.
Okay, Maha. What would you have done different?
Having a reliable team is very important to delegate.
You didn't have one.
Not enough.
That's the same thing. You relied a lot on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that comes actually with the personality. We're very much control freaks. We want to do it all. And then you have to learn how to delegate and empower and all that.
That comes from trust.
Mm-hmm.
But also related to that, that's an advice. What would I have done different? Because I was advised not to work with friends, to start to work with friends, but it's very good to become friends with who you start working with, but not the other way around.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. I mean, yes, ma'am.
You all just mentioned team and people. I'm still struggling with team. So how do you find the best team? Because money doesn't bring them along, and kindness doesn't really work that well, even though I've personally tried to use great recruiters and also great systems and processes. So there's a key to team. So is there a secret you can share with us about bringing the right people along?
Yeah, well, look, I'm fortunate because I can actually answer that. I've had a core team that has been with me for almost 25 years. And what I did was actually something that a lot of people wouldn't have wanted to do, because I was swimming up against the current. Everything we wanted to do was not what regulations wanted us to do. We had to fight government on new ways of development. We had to fight the market that didn't want to change. So as I said, there's a great TED Talk, actually, for anybody who wants to look at it. It's a short TED Talk, and it's you can Google it, and it's I think it's a crazy man dancing on a hill, demonstrating a movement. And the reason why it's important, because that TED Talk talks about the one person who stands out dancing like a crazy guy on a hill with a lot of people. Nobody was paying attention until the first person started dancing with him. And that was the first believer. And a lot of people always give the person who comes up with the vision more credit than they deserve, because if you don't have believers with you, you're going to be dancing alone like a crazy person. And I think so. My point to you is, I've always taken care of people. I've always been in the trench with them. I've never asked them to do anything that I wasn't going to do. People who know me know that. And I think at the end of the day, if they believe in what you believe in and know that you are going to be leading from the front, they'll be with you. I don't know.
So I'm sorry, it's about how you can build a good team?
Yeah.
Look, every business is about people. This is people decide and do things. They create computers, create business plans, and execute business plans. So, and people is not, it's a very, people are a complex, creature. So it's not really easy, how to really align yourself with the best team. But you have to be a leader, you have to be honest, you have to be very transparent and say the truth, and then make sure everything is decisive and precise about that relationship to help you grow your business. And you have to really make sure they have a skin in the game, and then also they are part of the potential upside of the business. And when you do that, and then you have to, and then people also, you can't just find people, like we have recruiters, okay, I want this person. And usually, it's opportunity. Sometimes you have to build a team, have people from entry level, look at who the stars are and try to spend more time with them to really make them, leaders and team leaders in the future. So, but also it's about luck also. Sometimes you get lucky, you get the right person who's the hungry, who wants to really do the work, who's the smart, and then just for them to be able to help you achieve what the mission of the company is.
What is one thing you brought with you from your home country that helped you succeed?
I think everything about me came from the old country. And I think family, education, community, I give everything I have today that is foundational came from Lebanon.
For me, it was my basis of my business is Lebanon and the Middle East. Everything that I do, all the images that I have in my archive are to do with the Middle East that many people have not seen and have disregarded. So we have a wealth of vision and visuals that are so amazing, and that's what I built my empire on. And people are like, what? This is from Lebanon? I'm like, yes, we have beautiful things, and it's the right time to capitalize and celebrate it.
You know,
No, I was going to
you
say.
were not born in Lebanon, so you can't talk. Okay.
So me, I was born and raised in Morocco and
You're similar. Joking.
studied under the French system, and I think what I brought from there that I think is helping me today is probably treating people properly. We were exposed to different cultures, religions, and accepting everybody and just being fair to people.
I think I'm very similar to all panels just spoke about. Again, just how we are open. You see our father, how hard he works just to provide for the family, private school education, hard work, and then try to achieve more, every day better than yesterday, and try to help people. So, and also we're immigrants. I said, okay, if I'm immigrating from Lebanon, what I'm gonna do here in the US, just hang around, or I wanna deliver something and do something very big. And that's really what drove me the most.
Okay, well, they're telling us, before they start playing the loud music and get us off the stage with hugs, I want to get to one last question. And I want us all to be honest, and I'm going to start with myself. We all are labeled as entrepreneurs. But I can tell you for myself, as I said, I went public in 2017, and a couple of years later, I realized that I was not an entrepreneur anymore. I was an employee working for shareholders who were pushing me every day to drive the stock up by $1 so they can sell the stock. And I lost that feeling that I used to have every morning when I wake up, that I wanted to go and learn something new and do something different. And as a result, I decided 6 months ago to give up what might have looked like something very comfortable and prestigious in being a chairman, CEO of a public company. I gave that up, and I decided that I'm going to go back into the world, shed my shell, feel vulnerable again, and keep on going with what I want to do rather than feel the comfort of a position. As you look at yourself and you want to be honest with yourself today, how much are you still taking the same risk you were taking when you were an entrepreneur or when you started? And how much of that is now being diluted because of the comfort of success?
No, part of the reason that's nice to be an entrepreneur is that you have the freedom and the flexibility, but then you end up working a lot. Really, your time is not your time. So sometimes people wonder, I wonder if sometimes people, they want to be an entrepreneur because they have a specific idea or because they want to have the freedom.
I don't think there's freedom in entrepreneurship. Yes. That's an illusion. But there's more of the word is rewarding. It's very, very rewarding, but no freedom.
So you still feel you are an entrepreneur? You're not?
I'm very much, especially with what's happened recently in Lebanon. I feel more of a mission to export Lebanon abroad, and a far more positive and far more. It's now the time for the Lebanese to present themselves even better abroad, because that's what they can do now. They have nothing else to rely on but to export themselves, and they have to do it very well. No more mediocrity, and and the vision is very important. I could go back to social media. Lebanon is presented on social media every day, and it's very important how we present ourselves through business visually.
Larbi, you're still new in that, but do you still feel like you still have the same?
Yeah, I think I have the same drive, especially now that we have, I would say, more competent team, and we're in hyper growth phase, so kind of doubling down on everything, so it's going to be hit or miss at this point.
George, you're still an entrepreneur or you're a manager?
Look, entrepreneur is like a spirit. Okay, so how
like
do
a spit?
It's a spirit.
Oh, I thought it's like
Okay.
a spit.
It's a spirit. How do you really measure the spirit? Okay, how do you define exactly what entrepreneurship is? But I'm still very aggressive. Okay, and then I don't count. I always say, okay, don't count how much money you have. You just keep working, and then this is like kind of A little bit, you know, I have to change, but you know, I still think I'm 20 years old, and then I still have 50 years of doing business. But you know, it's you know, when you are obsessed with business and you love business, you keep thriving. And of course, entrepreneurship. You say I'm an entrepreneur, I own my business, but technically, you do work for a lot of people. You work for your employees to make sure that you get that payroll.
That's number one.
Okay. Then you work for the bank to pay, you know, our friend Salim Aboud here, okay, from Inter-Audi Bank. You need to make sure you pay your bills, pay your interest, pay your principal in real estate, as you know, right? Work for your customers. So we work for a lot of people, okay? And but we're having fun, and we do it right. So it's exciting to be an entrepreneur.
Well, I'm going to end up by saying this. I mean, I look at you as a seasoned entrepreneur and a very, very successful businessman. And I don't need you to say anything. I just see the energy, and I think you're still an entrepreneur.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.